times this team has won the annual Formula One Drivers' World Championship. 5 times it has won the Formula One Constructors' World Championship. Its domination in 1992 of both competitions was the most emphatic in motor racing history. Williams Grand Prix Engineering employs nearly 200 people at its headquarters in Didcot. Tonight, behind normally closed doors, we meet the people who make Williams unquestionably the current class of the field.
Sure, okay. But you're not fearful in your own mind that anything will happen?
Founder, the man who gives the team its name, is Frank Williams. Since he launched the company in 1975, Williams has come from often derided outsider to acknowledged master of the business of running a Formula One racing team. His domination is the more remarkable because since a car crash 7 years ago, he's been a quadriplegic.
I'll be at home till about 11. I'll here for 2 hours, and I've got to go to Paris for the prize giving it. Yeah. I'll certainly see you for a little while. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, bye-bye.
Frank Williams' partner, co-owner and co-founder of the company is Patrick Head, who's in charge of everything related to technology and design. Though he insists Williams' success is a team effort, the team insists it all stems from him.
You were talking about how in some respects this is still a bunch of boys playing with toys.
No, I was really just saying that probably quite a lot of the people working here now were played with, I don't know, dinky toys or whatever sort of cars they had, or Scalextric, or some sort of electric racing cars when they were younger, and maybe never grew up. But I was just being funny about it and saying it's sort of boys playing. But it is, in a way, it's a fun ground. We can develop whatever we want as long as it's in the direction of making the cars quicker.
Travelling here at 185 miles per hour, today's Formula One car contains the most formidable late 20th century technology this side of fighter aircraft.
If Patrick Head says that we need to design something to make the car fly 10 feet above the ground, we'll do it. Whether it's any relevance to anything else, we don't ask the question, we just get on and do it.
From my point of view, it's true that a lot of the work that I do is interesting because we get an immediate result and we have a fairly free hand in what we do, just so long as we can demonstrate that it makes the car go quicker.
I think you want to keep this striving forward for excellence all the time, because that's what the whole raison d'etre of Formula One is, being at the pinnacle. If you artificially lower that pinnacle, then you might as well go racing Bentleys with leather straps on the top, I think.
The 1992 championship was won by the FW14, the 14th design generation in Williams' history. This is the FW15, the car for 1993. But this particular car will never race. It and 2 other entire cars costing £1 million each will be used only for testing. The cars that line up for the opening Grand Prix of 1993 on March the 14th in South Africa will be FW15Cs. Their engineering and design based on refinements made during a winter of testing and development with this car. It's being prepared for the first session of that winter's work. With its partner, it must catch tonight's cross-channel ferry en route to a week in Estoril, Portugal. The racing may be over for 4 months. The work behind the scenes will be no less intense. The shadow of last year's #1 driver, Nigel Mansell, who departed in some acrimony, still hangs over the factory. But increasingly, he's not talked about anymore. Frank Williams' mind is directed only to the present.
Well, the burning issue of today, if you like, in my mind is who will be the second driver, because we've decided, we shall decide this week, #1, and then there are a number of other burning issues, like such and such. A company hasn't actually signed its contract yet for 93, although it has every intention, it said it will, but it's not actually signed yet, so until it's done, it ain't done. So that's on my mind heavily. A couple of other situations not quite like that. And then there's all sorts of minute-by-minute stuff which you've witnessed, I mean. But that's the same in every office here, and I'm sure in most offices throughout the country.
I think there's still this sort of concept by a lot of people that racing teams probably work from some lock-up garages and a one or two porter cabins. You know, you've seen from looking around here the amount of organisation and facilities and technical backup there is to our show, if you like. Whilst our sponsors don't expect us to win all the time, and we don't go out and pretend that we're going to win every time, because otherwise you're on a hide into nothing, we do say to them that we're going to give them value for money, that we're going to provide them with the best technology that we can develop, we're going to supply them with the best drivers that we can afford, and the whole show is going to be a first-class show on a world stage, and that's what they're interested in.
The people that are involved in it now, most of them would look on it as a business. I wouldn't think there's anyone in here that thinks it's as a sport, because it's their method of earning their living. So from that point of view, it's most definitely a business. Outside, the general public walking up down the road would probably say that it's sport, but they've not been in here.
Most of Williams' annual budget of over £20 million is spent in thoroughly mundane ways on thoroughly conservative engineering. The small change of conversations here sounds much like any factory.
Somewhere there's a 5 mil discrepancy. I mean, that fits, and I'm sure that'll fit the car.
But that's all they used. They used my drawing, didn't they?
Well, yeah.
First place.
Yeah, you used that drawing to make that with, and I'd use that drawing to make that with, so somewhere along the line we've lost 5 mil.
Okay.
Same thread, yeah.
Same thread, quarter UNF.
Okay.
And if you could turn the head to a dome, leave us just enough to get a spanner on the flats. For this seat belt, we can't get any bolts. Please.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Ta.
Go on.
I will go to inspection and find out what is going on.
Yeah.
Now.
Good. But I'll have my book back and my pen.
Oh, all right.
Though much of the activity around the factory is of a routine, repetitive nature, it is always enlivened by a constant stream of modifications. And however much this machine shop has in common with others up and down the country, it has a particular source of inspiration and a particular reason to get things right.
When I came here 10 years ago, I mean, I was fortunate enough when I came here, they were world champions that year. We became world champions. Then we had a good 2 years. Then we kind of had a lean spell. But really, we never gave up, really, and I think that's it. I mean, we've never, ever given up the thought of winning.
The thought of winning can mean good pay packets all round.
You're in the job, you're doing the hours are needed. The car performs, you do more hours, and it goes round and round in circles, so you get hooked up on it, I suppose. And before you know where you are, you're doing an awful lot of hours, but not really noticing it that much, I suppose. More the wife at home noticing it, I think.
This is the composite shop, where, with the aid of an old-fashioned, low-tech hairdryer, the process begins of building the car's structure. A composite is the product of bringing together two or more less useful materials to make one more useful material. Composites have taken over from metal in virtually the whole of the car's structural components. Some of this technology is so advanced that we were, from time to time, asked to avert our lens.
Where my hands are, that's where his feet would be. That's where the pedals go, just there.
The driver's head is where? Show us
If I turn that way, this is the mold. It would be just sort of behind, in that position.
The final weight of all these composite components will be only half that of the driver whose life they may save.
Yeah, it's nice to see what you've made on a car, on the television, yeah.
This is the bit that scrapes along the ground?
Yeah, you don't actually see a lot of it on the television. when Ricardo went up in the air, we thought we'd have a good shot of our diffuser going through the air, but all the camera angles were wrong. It didn't sort of didn't see our diffuser.
At one point in its progress at Didcot, the life-saving tub, the box around the driver, passes through the hands of Bernie Jones, who's drilled every hole in every tub since FW06. In this case, 192, for wiring, hydraulics and controls.
You've got to have development. I mean, when I first started, it was aluminium chassis, and we've developed from there. I mean, these carbon things are absolutely incredible.
In this test, a head-on impact equivalent to over 200 miles an hour is absorbed by the composite structure, damage is confined to the nose cone, the tub is intact.
Still the need for the craft. Well, I mean, there's certain things that just can't be done on the machine, aren't there? I mean, manufacturing wishbones and uprights, radiators, you can't do that sort of thing on a machine. It's all, I mean, the end things are pressed out, there's a lot of pressing. Forming different pieces over to make them fit. You get such complicated designs and you just have to manufacture to suit.
There are no more obviously complicated parts on the car than the exhaust systems. These are made in matching pairs, which Williams price at £3,800 the pair, and Jim and Steve make 50 sets a year. You might think the exhaust long ago reached its development ceiling, but even here, experiment continues.
Well, this is a different material which we're using, and we're sending on a test to just check that the material is up to the required standard, basically. So if this tube lasts on the car during the Estoril test, that's the tube we'll be using next season.
And you guys, you are the two who get this job, eh?
Unfortunately, yep, we've drawn the short straw.
And you always do the mirror image?
Yep, yep.
In the past, there's always been different teams that have dominated in certain areas, and I think that'll always be the case. But that dominated team pulls the other teams up to that standard. I think that can only be a good thing.
If it hadn't been Williams, it would have been McLarens or Benettons or Ferrari. It's just happened to be us at the moment. We're at the front now, so they'll have to catch us up.
At one time it was Italians who were considered to be the people to beat, and the Germans before that. I mean, the Germans were considered to be in the 30s. I mean, they were the ultra high tech. They blew everybody away. But now it's the British.
The race bay where the cars are assembled becomes especially the point of focus in the factory when there's a test in the offing. The preparations are no less intense than for a race during the Grand Prix season.
Do they fit? Of course they fit.
I hope so.
Is it a sport anymore?
Oh, yeah. It's a great deal of fun, and the name of the game here is competition. We're trying to be better and beat everybody, better than and beat everybody, and everything happens here is towards that. I mean, we're just trying to prove we're out there, the best people on the racetrack.
Whatever dramas may be going on with temperamental drivers, whatever controversy may be raging about technology, whatever delicate negotiations may be in the balance with a sponsor, it's reassuring to know that every morning at 10:30, Irene Cliven has an announcement to make.
Tea's ready.
Or it always was first. Tea's up, boys. Let's have a cup of Java Lily. You never heard of that name, Jim.
What's in there? He's followed me all the way down. Go away.
The rituals of the tea break at Williams are pretty much set in stone. There are 3 schools playing Chase the Queen. Bernie and his old pal Roger will sit facing each other but rarely speak. And these four, the intellectuals as they're known, will have a bash at the Daily Mail crossword.
How do you spell Copenhagen?
Williams is a very British success story. Indeed, behind the scenes in almost all the major Formula One teams, British engineering and organisation hold sway. What are the particular British qualities that have brought this about?
On a whole, the typical British doggedness, I think, helps, because a lot of the time it's hard work and you've just got to get your head down and get on with it. There's not time for too much jovialness anymore.
They want to do some damp testing.
They ain't going to have time, are they?
Well, they're banking on the truck leaving at 6.
But we can't load the truck until we've got the flushing back. The flushing back's the first thing to go in.
Down there, you've got two lots of belts in there.
Yeah, squashing two belts.
Squashing two belts instead of squashing one belt.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
So it's half, really. It's 50
So you need...
50,000.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so what we want to do is make one of those with a step, don't we? Another...
50 there.
Yeah. Okay.
I presume that belt is the same as the crush strap.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah, the material's all the same. It's the same as all of it, isn't it? If we can have a sketch, so we get them done in a bit of a hurry, please.
Yeah, I'll do that. Right now.
For test team manager Brian Lambert, it's proving to be one of those days.
I'm sorry, but I mean, we can't hold the truck is on the 11 o'clock boat. There is nowhere else for them to travel.
That's a Virgin. Exactly the same as what you used last year, well, this year.
But Clive was going to move that around, so you didn't have to...
Well, they're still looking at what they're doing for running for racing for next year, but that's been sitting in the stores for a couple of months.
Okay.
That's exactly what's in the other 215s.
That's going to take 3/4 of an hour. Then Mark wants it to do these valve blocks. I mean, you're talking sort of 4 o'clock by the time you get it, at the earliest.
Obviously, you need to sort out the orders and find out what we've got available here and what we can convert to 3,700 as standard, but we need the 3,700 valve.
Yeah, okay.
Have you got actuators and stuff? Everything here?
Actuators are in, pump mounts are in, one valve block that I'm waiting to go on now.
Oh, you're waiting for the pack for that, aren't you?
Yeah. How you going, Stuart?
Stuntman. All right, Frank. Williams Stuntman, Frank.
The Williams Stuntman.
As in many other companies run by a charismatic leadership, you never know when the boss might turn up and be looking over your shoulder. Frank Williams makes a point of poling round the factory once or twice or 3 times a day.
Which tub is this? Is this the short?
3.
Oh yeah, the first of us. Slightly lower, yeah.
To the race cars.
Yeah. Okay. And this is doing the next test, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Leaving Tuesday. 2 days today. Can be ready? Is it going to be ready?
Stay tuned.
Well, I suppose you can take bits off number.
Yeah, all the external stuff's coming off all one.
At Washer, when you had a fight the other night, he's now going to tack weld it.
Yeah, I know. That's my idea.
Is it? So when you get back off this
retro
test,
all the others.
you have to strip all 4 pair down.
Yeah, and
those 4
also
down.
that detail wants doing as well.
Why don't you just put some figures together? I'll speak to you on the phone in the morning, yeah? I think we're based on over 25. Let's say 25 is the minimum. Is what we'd expect for a mediocre success or mediocre deal. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. All right, thanks.
Although everyone in the factory affects a certain nonchalance, the fact is that Williams, this particular winter, is under siege on a number of fronts. It parted company with Nigel Mansell, the 1992 world champion driver, which some people seem determined not to forgive. A new driver has to be found. Furthermore, its crushing victory in the Constructors' Championship has brought all sorts of suggestions about how Williams' technological superiority should be cancelled out so the rest have a chance.
There's an awful lot of debate going on. I mean, at the moment, they're trying to suggest that anybody who scored points, depending on how many points they scored or something, should have weights hung on them for next year or some such charter of mediocrity, anyway.
This business of reining in high technology, I mean, a kite that is being flown by quite a lot of people at the moment, you know, reining in...
Mainly have-nots.
Yes, exactly. It has the qualities somewhat of a Get Williams movement, doesn't it?
Well, there may be a little bit of a persecution, but, I mean, once upon a time being a good Catholic, I suppose I'm quite used to that, going back 500 years or whatever. But I don't think it's a real thing. Well, you know, there's always push and shove in Formula One. It's such a brilliantly competitive sport. I love it. I'd be uneasy if it were quiet. I think I was being knifed in the back, or about to be knifed in the back.
As the first of the FW15s has the finishing touches applied before it leaves for the ferry, the unspoken possibility looms that much of its wizardry may be banned. Much of Williams' current effort could be made redundant by a sweeping change in the regulations governing the sport. A Williams mechanic takes refuge in basics.
From a mechanic's point of view, a car's a car. Whatever it looks like, it works on the same principles. You've got the engine working on the Otto cycle, you've got the gearbox working and the diff working in exactly the same ways, the brakes working exactly the same ways. The only thing that is any different is the bodywork. And that is the only difference there is. Formula One has got a bit more in the way of aerodynamics. It's basically a flying wing, a wing on four wheels, basically, when it comes down to it. Whereas a road car has got to carry 4 passengers, the luggage, and things like that. A Formula One racing car doesn't need that. It just needs space for one driver, a tank full of fuel, an engine, and a gearbox, 4 wheels.
Anyway. 7:30 a.m. on the first day of a week's testing.
Bonjour.
The overture will be sung by the RS4, the engine that gives the car its full name, the Williams Renault.
If you stand still, you're dead. You've got to develop and race and develop and race and develop and race. Try and keep ahead of the opposition.
3 other teams are here with Williams Renault. Ferrari, Benetton, and a new Swiss team, Sauber, widely regarded as Mercedes in disguise. Together, they must pay £45,000 for the hire of the track, plus the full mandatory backup services of an air ambulance on standby, fire engines, breakdown lorries, and stewards at every bend. According to taste, ears are defended or not. A surprising number put up with this bedlam as though it were chamber music.
Well, there are plenty of people that say that it's still a sport, but I don't think it is. I think it's an exercise in engineering expertise, promotional extravagance, whatever. When I first started, it was good fun, and now it's less good fun, but a lot harder work, more pressure. Some say for the good, some say for the bad. It will confuse the system no end. See, there's 1 for the front and 2 for the back. Yeah. Now, if you've got the front connected to a rear, yeah, it doesn't know what it wants to do. You've got 1 valve for the front, 2 for the rear. And I reckon somewhere along the line it's crossed.
Ah, yeah. I know what you mean now.
Because there we had 1 at the front on the rear and a rear on the front. Did you check that out?
I'll check it out, yeah. What time is it now? I'll get on to... Oh, they won't be in yet, will they? We're going to go...
And you need to go testing to be successful. If you don't go testing, then you're doing all your development at race meetings, which does really stretch you preparation-wise between a test and a race.
Although it's not racing, how interested are you in the other teams?
Oh, very. We try and
get as much information on other teams as we do for ourselves. But it's important to us to know what they're actually up to. We just do it by looking and listening and keeping our ears to the ground, picking bits out of conversations and things like that.
However much interest Williams take in their rivals, it is as nothing compared to the interest paid back. The Williams pit is the one everyone wants to peep in.
I mean, if we come away from a test and other people were quicker than us, I mean, we wouldn't be disappointed because they were quicker. I mean, there's obviously various reasons for that, which I would rather not say at the minute.
Each team has 2 race drivers. Williams has already hired one for the 1993 season. Triple world champion, winner of more Grand Prix than anyone else, the Frenchman Alain Prost, who is returning to racing after a year's sabbatical. Every aspect of the cockpit, belts, seat and mirrors, is to be tailored for him exclusively.
Just, well, to pull that in there, you see, at the bottom, you can do that, no problem. But when you pull that in, it's cutting into the loops at the top.
I don't feel it.
You don't, the top's no problem, so we can just trim that back slightly. Yep.
Now, look where is my leg. And the pedal is straight or is the one with the angle? The one with the angle.
We have the straight one in the truck.
So this is basically his file from under, isn't it? They've modified.
Meanwhile, in the transporter, chief designer Adrian Newey is checking the database. The last 3 years' technical history of Williams is in this laptop computer. Every lap, every gear change, every rev laid open to analysis. This week's testing will be merely the latest accumulation of data. From the world of milliseconds to the world of DIY, Alain Prost's final seatbelt placing. If you were a Portuguese labourer carrying a ladder, you'd probably stop for a look. The other driver here in Estoril has been testing cars for Williams for 2 years and is one of the candidates for the vacant second seat in the team for 1993. For Damon Hill, this week amounts to a final audition. No sooner have the 2 cars gone out for the first time than they are back. 1 lap for starters, and then the team has a check. This is not the Grand Prix world of the pit stop in 7.6 seconds. This team, the test team, has a different agenda. The drivers will spend as much time in the garage as on the track. With all the equipment that the team has to play with, both in the car and in the garage, it could be forgotten that there's a driver involved at all. Indeed, Nigel Mansell, during his leaving of Williams, said that the car nowadays is so stuffed with electronic gadgetry, it could be driven by a puppet.
Well, I know what he was saying, that there are some parts of the car that maybe make his driving easier. But I don't think he's correct because, I mean, for instance, the latest fighter aircraft have immense electronically controlled capabilities. But the training for such a fighter is far more demanding than it was 50 years ago with the Spitfire. Maybe that's your answer.
I don't think a puppet could drive it. There is a lot of skill still involved in driving a car at those sort of speeds. The forces that are acting on the driver are quite immense, quite difficult for anybody to even imagine what they must be like. Someone to do that must be incredibly brave, and they require a lot of skill. I mean, you may say that the skill's been taken away in terms of changing gear or braking, but to be brave enough to drive at the speeds it still requires something special from the driver. We can't supply that.
those who find merely the sound of high-performance engines entrancing, this is a week in paradise. To anyone else, it's somewhat of a mystery. There's no racing going on. The cars spend long periods back in the garage. The mystery clears up a little, of course, if you can listen in on the radio.
The traction goes after about 4 laps, and it predominantly wants to oversteer mid-corner, slow corners. High-speed balance is all right. Sometimes when I hit a bump, I get quite an understeer for quite a period, so it's not actually keeping the front end grip consistent.
I start to get a little oversteer, not really oversteer, but a bit more brusque some places, and jumping even more. When the car jumps, now it's bottoming a little bit. Only 1 millimeter makes a big change.
When you say mid-corner, is it you on the throttle again, where you get the oversteer or not?
If I get off the throttle in the middle of the corner, yeah. And it's also going into the corner itself off the throttle.
For future reference, if the yellow light flashes occasionally on new tyres, then just keep going.
This time it was not flashing, it was on for maybe 3 or 4 seconds.
I'm also not getting full throttle that easily because there's something, it tightens up just before I get to the stop, and to actually get it on full throttle is quite a hard effort and the pedal seems like it's almost falling over.
I really feel the biggest problem is the bumps again, you know. And when you want to go fast, you really need to, you know, take on you because of the bumps. It's not comfortable.
This one I like. What is that? The 125 on the turn-in.
So it's turning a bit better.
Is that the feeling?
Yeah.
After the corner that's fourth gear right-hander, the rise, you come up there, then there's a kink before the left-hander before the last corner. And around there it's really nervous. I mean, it's never been nervous like that before, around there.
For chief designer Adrian Newey, it all comes down to data. Data is data, whether it's acquired here in the noise and smells of Estoril or back in the comparatively academic calm of the Williams wind tunnel in Didcot. This, we're told, is the fastest and most accurate low-speed wind tunnel in the world.
Well, the base run, the base for comparison is 2081. Current one? 2083.
Completed in 1991 at a cost of £4.5 million, the tunnel is devoted exclusively to learning how to make Williams cars go faster without leaving the ground. One of the aerodynamics team explains.
The car's actually sucked down onto the ground more than it's pushed down. In the same way that your jumbo jet when you're flying across the Atlantic is in fact pulled up by the top surface of the wing, not pushed up by the bottom. The downforce of the car is quite in excess of its weight. The car could drive upside down on the roof of a tunnel if you wanted to, if somebody was brave enough to drive it like that.
Its body drag is 12 pounds down. No, it's 10 pounds. Well, it's 12 pounds on drag for. It's still gone up. Yeah, it usually goes up. It probably shows there's no obvious signs of separation. That's about right.
Adrian?
Yeah?
When people say that motor racing is really grown-ups playing with toys, looking at what you're doing now...
That'd be about right, yeah, I know. It's very scientific, this, isn't it? sticking bits of tape on the model. The only thing that's quite nice about this is when you spend most of the day looking at a computer screen or a drawing board or whatever it might be, basically pushing paper around, to actually come in and use your fingers makes quite a nice change.
What its overall relevance to life, the universe, and the quality of life, I'm not sure. It's entertainment. Entertainment is about improving the quality of life. It improves our ability to design things in general.
We live in a world of high-tech. Everything's high-tech, isn't it? Everything you buy, washing machine down to the car is a high-tech. A racing car is no different. All racing cars get better every year. All washing machines get better every year. You can't put a stop on technology. It continues on and on and on, otherwise we'd never have people on the moon.
If it's a wet day at Estoril, nobody goes out lapping the track, but you can test computer-aided starts. The object is 0 to 100 miles per hour in better than 3 seconds. Damon Hill returns directly to the pits. A smart card is immediately removed from the side pod and brought to the computer bank at the back of the garage. Its information makes an old-fashioned verbal debriefing seem quaint.
From when you go to, say, onto the throttle and the revs pick up, to when we see the car moving.
It's not so bad, really, is it? I mean, you just get those ones where it's actually slowing down.
What's the other level?
The top's 0.6. You're getting the peaks, and the thing is to try and start dropping it again earlier, isn't it, really?
So tweak the computer program and have another go.
For Damon to be saying it's slow, it must be too much wheel spin then, because that's only 0.07.
Yeah.
So it must be presumably sort of somewhere up around here when the wheel speed starts blasting.
Well, it shows 100 milliseconds.
So when the wheel's really starting spinning.
The objective of that work is to minimise wheel spin at a start, because if you minimise wheel spin, you maximise the performance off the line. Similarly, for a road car, there is a requirement, really, to minimise wheel spin under traction, both from starts and coming out of corners. So similar technology...
But no law-abiding road car is meant to be travelling at speeds remotely in the region of producing wheel spin.
No, that's true. But if you're pulling away on ice, for example, you have a similar set of problems, which could be tackled using similar strategies.
A lot of technology that's now in road cars is recent F1 technology. People like Renault, Honda, and the like, and Ford are not there because they just want a sticker on the side of the car and they think it's just good marketing. They're there to learn. They know it's a very good way of accelerating programs and breaking new ground.
When we're working on something to improve the race car, we don't say we will do this because it may benefit the motor industry. We do it because it'll make our cars faster. If there happens to be some secondary benefit for the motor industry, then it's really a good thing, and to some extent it's up to the rule makers to make sure that the things that we might think of to make our cars better on the racetrack happen to coincide with what might be of interest to the people making road vehicles, really.
Press the button, get the red sign, and then you'll release the button.
Yeah, just put my... We've got a 10,000 RPM limit. I just put my foot all the way to the floor and just release the button, and then it does it. It
It does it all for you. Yeah. But it feels very...
the noise it does from here. Awful.
Yeah.
Showed was that there are some areas where our system controlled on the computer was superior, and other areas where the driver still had an edge. So it was useful to do the back-to-back tests for us to see which areas we still had work to do.
And are you confident that that work will be completed in time for the kick-off of 1993?
Fairly confident, yeah.
Williams' test program, with its own cars and its own teams of mechanics, goes on 12 months of the year. 3 more times they'll return to Estoril before the start of the 1993 season. And it doesn't always go smoothly. Twice in one day, Alain Prost no sooner left the pits than he broke down and had to be towed back for an afternoon of idleness. Fortuitously, this was the afternoon that Patrick Head and Frank Williams dropped over to Estoril to see how things were going.
You had a lot of throttle problems, didn't you?
Yes.
Gone back to the normal.
That's a standard. It turned out to be the mechanical linkage of the thing was sticking.
Was it?
Yeah. So let's take it off.
Yeah. Okay.
It's doing a very similar thing to what it was in the dynos. We're doing this.
Yep. And how were they after 29 laps?
A bit of wear on the left front, but not too bad.
Balance is reasonable?
Yeah. No, balance was not very good. I mean, not really the balance, but a bit too much understeer. But it's like you have a very stiff compound, and all the bumps, you're losing the grip from the front. I mean, front and rear, but you're losing the... It's quite hard.
I've got the same strategy in Alain's car as I have with Damon's, and the only other difference is the fluid, of course, and the fact that we've got exhaust there, 6 dogs in Damon's.
6 dogs in Damon's.
Yeah.
The junction between the seat back bulkhead and the floor, I don't think is very strong. We may have to put some mechanical fasteners in there.
At the moment, there's moved back position. There's a bolt through there anyway.
Through the flange, yeah.
Right at the back of the garage, Frank Williams shared his latest thoughts about the second driver vacancy with Alain Prost.
Tous les ingénieurs ici me poussent pour Damon. Nick sûrement a beaucoup de talent, il est très vite, mais les mêmes voix me disent que ne connaît pas beaucoup de la voiture, ne comprend pas beaucoup de la voiture.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it depends which... You're obliged to take a small risk anyway. So which one
no
you want
risk,
to take?
No gain.
It would be idle to pretend that this drive by Damon Hill was make or break for him. But with Alain Prost out of action and Frank Williams and Patrick Head in attendance, the spotlight certainly turned his way. Even though it's only a test session, every lap is timed to 1/1000th of a second.
On the control, what's his best lap time on the control? Maybe 13.8. Pretty solid, isn't it?
At 5 o'clock, the day's driving is done, and for the umpteenth time, the tyre wear, tyre pressure, tyre temperature is checked. The checkered flag signals to the last car on the circuit to come in. For the great bulk of the team, another 7 or 8 hours' work stretches ahead. The 2 cars are to be completely stripped and reassembled before they can knock off for the night. The engine heads off for its evening post-mortem in the Renault garage next door.
If you finish before midnight, you're looking good. But on a 6-day test, to work after midnight every night, by the end of the week, you really know you've done a week's work. In fact, it's probably 3 weeks' work in 1 week.
Was yesterday 1053, today it's 1041.
Voilà, donc les deux noirs correspondent au moteur, au deuxième moteur du deuxième jour, et le rouge et le rose c'est aujourd'hui.
Tu vois, je sais pas si c'est vraiment très significatif, mais...
Voilà.
For Brian Lambert, ringing Didcot in the evening is like an internal call. Estoril is a branch of the factory gone abroad. The phone and fax bill for the week is £1,500.
G'day, Bob. How you doing? Good. Bob, just a quickie. The rear uprights on the cars.
While the cars are painstakingly stripped, deep in the tiny inner sanctum office in the transporter, Damon Hill must have something of the worry of being up before the headmaster.
Active fluid. Lunchtime, I would hope. Yeah. We didn't know whether we'd given you the good stuff or the bad stuff. I don't think it actually means it.
Damon, this way.
Damon, down here. Damon. Damon, with the helmet. Yeah, just bring the helmet up into that's it, under your arm. That's all right. And then round to the
Primarily, Damon's attraction to Williams is because he is actually very, very fast. Our requirement from him is to not crash the car, is to get on the podium as often as he can, and of course, therefore, and thereby, to win, to obtain as many World Championship points in 1993 to help the Cannon Williams team retain its grip on the World Championship for Constructors. Clearly, to have another Englishman in the team to follow Nigel is something that will be very well received by all the people who work here. There is still a strong following in the company for Nigel, and I think that following can now focus on another Englishman will be significant to people's enthusiasm and morale here, and that includes me.
Are you glad, Frank, that this is all now signed, sealed, and the Mansell thing is over?
Well, it depends on you guys if the Mansell thing is over. I happen no one's asked me about that today. I think I nearly escaped, or I thought I'd nearly escaped.
No, sorry.
No, it's one thing on the job list has been crossed off, yeah.